was saying, today we're going to be doing our interactive notebook for writing and substituting in expressions. The final notebook is going to look like this right here. I'm going to share my screen. It's going to look exactly like that. So go ahead and start getting stuff glued in. I will label which ones are half folds and which ones are normal in just a little bit. So part of today is going to be taking some notes, but also part of today I want to explain some slight changes to the way assignments are going to work. So I already talked to some of you last week on Friday, but starting tomorrow, you'll see in some of your assignments something called a challenge zone. The challenge zone is basically extra stuff. It's going to be things that you can work on after like class, if we're in person and you finish an assignment quickly or something like that. But also, it's something that's going to extend your knowledge in math class for the stuff that we're missing this year. So we do have to cut a little bit of content just because it's going a little slower than we'd go in person. Especially at the start of the year, things were really slow and we lost a couple weeks early on to the fires and stuff. Plus orientation and all that other stuff. So there are going to be some things that I'm adding in that are kind of extra optional material. It won't affect your grade at all, although trying the challenge problems might bump you from a 3 to a 4 if you're on the cusp on a certain assignment. And you'll start seeing those tomorrow. I would strongly encourage you to give them a shot. You'll notice that in at least Google Slides, the assignment is going to be colored in green. The challenge zone is going to be covered in yellow. And then if there's a part that's like an extra challenge, it'll be in red. So like I said, you won't have to do those for credit or anything. They won't affect your grade, but they are extra practice that I think will be worth doing for a lot of you, if not everybody. So let's see really quick. Let me double check. I believe there are 3 half folds on this one. Half fold, half fold, half fold. Okay. So this one, and this one are all half folds. Brooklyn, I don't know what to do about your scissors, but I'm sorry. That sounds rough. You can always just take the notes by hand, Brooklyn. I'm not, the foldy bits are, for you. They're not really for me. I don't really care. Brogan, you're just waiting? Are you done already? Brooklyn, if you are going to do that, it might be helpful to get the vocab terms written and maybe the problems. Oh, I'll get there, Brogan. We're going to go through all of the notes today because, like I said, we're a little bit behind. It won't take too terribly long. But there's only 4 problems this week. Okay. I'll get to it in a little bit. If you aren't quick at getting this done, Enrique, make sure you mark out where everything is going to go so that you can take the notes as we go along and I don't have to wait. Jessica, I see your meep. Did I raise you a meep with a question mark? Nobody's requesting to unmute. All right, Brody. So Candler, Brody, are you guys getting your interactive notebooks done? Actually, hold on really quick. I think it was. Brody's just going full time traveler on us. Cool. Okay, how many people need more time for the getting the original or the initial stuff glued in? Okay, more time, more time, more time, more time. Okay, we'll take a little bit more time. Terry, you're not out. Stay here. You left early in class and missed a test, so you definitely need to stay. Actually, a lot of you need to stay because a lot of people who I told specifically to come work with me didn't come work with me. And this is not all we're doing today. We're going to actually fill in the notes too. So if you're not done yet, make sure you get vocabulary glued in because the other things you can write them in before you cut them out, which is just fine. But no, Terry, it's fine. I'm just saying, like, you can't leave early today after you're already behind on some stuff. Well, we got to catch you up a little bit. So let's not get further behind, is what I'm saying. To be fair, nobody can leave right now. It's not just you. Is Hannah still not here? Dawn, then make sure that you've got the basics of it. No. So Barb, this is just all the 7th graders. Here's Hannah. We were doing them all together today just so that Mrs. Page and I had a prep because we're doing pretty easy lessons. Dawn, these are about solving algebraic expressions. We're going to get to it in just a second. I'm going to move on in about 1 minute. No, Brayden, you can't leave. You need to take notes. Also, Brody, Candler, you need to focus. Because next test, I am not teaching people things during the test. And this is probably the hardest unit we've done so far coming up. So. Yes, Dylan, really. Okay, we're gonna move on. If you haven't finished yet, that's okay. Just make sure you like take a picture of this or something so that you can see where everything goes. I can come back to it at the end of class as well. But we're gonna go ahead and move on. All right, so first things first, you guys don't care about these, but our goal for this unit is to be able to write and evaluate algebraic expressions and determine if a number is a solution to an equation. Andy, that's fine. Just make sure you're writing these down somewhere so that you have the notes. The first vocabulary term is variable. This is a symbol that represents one or more numbers. It is almost always a letter. There are some very rare instances where it will not be a letter. For instance, with angles, whoops, With angles, you see stuff like theta, which is a Greek letter, so it's not the same thing. But in general, things like x, y, z, a, b, and c are often used. You can use any letter you want, really. Generally speaking, theta with a th. Generally speaking, you don't use I as a variable. That's for something that you won't learn until calculus. You also usually don't use E as a variable, which is something you won't learn until pre-calculus. So those are the two that that's true, Brogan. Greek letters are technically still letters, but not really though. Okay. Who needs more time with this word? Okay, I don't see anybody. So let's go on to the next one. Algebraic expression. Now this one is a little bit longer, so I'm gonna give you more time. But an algebraic expression is a mathematical expression that contains numbers, operations, and variables. So what we've got is here, you can see these have a bunch of different labels. We have coefficient, variable, constant, operation. A coefficient is just a number that's being multiplied by a variable. We write them next to each other like this. So if you ever see like 7x, this is equal to 7 times x. We've already talked about this a little bit before, but in general, you see it written like this. The numbers and the letters go together. Operations, hopefully everybody knows at this point, operations are things like plus, minus, divided by, times. And then constants are numbers that don't have a variable attached. So 2 by itself, 15 by itself, 13 by itself, etc., etc. Jasmine, it's okay. You can just ignore him. Braden, you're welcome to leave if you want, but you're going to miss all the notes if you do that. And I'm going to mark you absent. So. Nope, that's not what I want. Okay. Switch this yet. Switch this too. Okay. Does anybody need more time? All right. I don't see anybody saying yes. Terry, I think so. All right. Next up. Evaluate. This is to find the value of an expression. So, for instance, what they're showing here is something we're going to talk about on Wednesday, specifically substituting in values for x and y. We've done this a little bit already, but it's not really terribly relevant. But evaluate really just means to solve something. So to find the value of an expression. I think we only have one more vocab word. Is that right? Are you looking at the wrong one, Brooklyn? Brooklyn, you might be at the next one. The next one is a little bit, because it's got term, constant, coefficient, like terms, and coefficient again. For some reason, it has coefficient twice. Are there two left? Oh, there are two left. You're right. Okay, does anybody need more time for this one? Okie doke. This one, the next word is equation, which is a mathematical sentence that contains an equal sign between two expressions. So basically, it's just something with an equal sign and something on either side. So in this case, you have x plus 2 on one side, you have 3 on the other side. That's an equation. Really, if you see an equal sign and there's something on the right and there's something on the left, you have an equation. Now, in this case, we can actually solve the equation too for x, but Jessica, it will probably, today might be a little bit boring for most of the day. That's kind of why we decided to combine the groups, because it's a pretty simple, straightforward lesson. We're just taking notes. Sorry, the life is boring though. Okay. Are we ready to move on to the next one? Do we need more time? More time? Okay. The 19th is the last day of the trimester. That's actually probably good. Oh, you guys are saying yes, let's go. Okay, let's move on. Solution, a value which makes an equation true. So in this case, specifically the x equals 1. So you can see how we have x here plus 2 equals 3. When x is 1, this equation is true. If x is 4, this equation is not true, right? Because 4 plus 2 equals 6, not 3. So the idea here is just that a solution is a value which makes an equation correct. And we'll be looking at how to solve equations probably Thursday. Jasmine, yes, we are. We're going to go until 2:30. I hope. I think we should be out of here by 2:30. 2:35 at the latest. That's still 30. You don't have an assignment today, so you should be happy. Hold on a second, Brogan. Does anybody else need more time? Yes, Grayson? Okay. Or is that you being excited we don't have an assignment? I'm so confused. Okay. All right. So this is already here. Wait, am I muted? Oh. Okay, Jay, do you have a question?
I may speak for us all. Can we leave?
All right. So Jay, now you're not going to get unmuted again for the rest of class because that was not helpful. So this should already be in your notes. If it is not, I would strongly recommend taking a picture of it right now so that you can put it in later. This is how we evaluate an expression. Again, this is something we're going to cover in more detail throughout the rest of the week, but it is there for you to see. So the first step is to rewrite the expression by substituting the given values for the variables. Wait, what? Yes, I'm talking. Oh, Dylan can't hear me. Dylan might have lost audio for a second. Okay, and then the second one is to follow the order of operations to find the value of the expression. So that part is not particularly bad. But again, we'll look at that later in the week. So first things first, we want to evaluate an algebraic expression. We want to put in the answer to 5x minus 3 when x equals 8. So the first thing we need to do is substitute in 8 for x. So what x equals 8 tells us is that x and 8 are interchangeable. Wherever we see x in this equation, we can put in an 8. So what we do down here is we plug that in. Thank you, Jessica. I can't see anything in the chat now. So we have 5 times 8 minus 3. 5 times 8 is 40. So we have 40 minus 3, and then 40 minus 3 is 37. So our answer, our answer is 37 for this problem. Now, one really important thing to note is that when we're substituting in for x, you'll notice that this is in parentheses down here. There are 2 reasons for this. One, it makes sure we know what we're actually substituting in. And 2, if you just put in an 8 like this, 5, 8, most people would read that as 58, not as 5 times 8. So if we look instead, 5, 8 like this means 5 times 8, which is 40. So this is why we put parentheses around the stuff that we're actually subbing in. Okay. Anybody need more time on this? Okay, let's go on to the next one. So now we've got y plus 2 squared plus p when y equals -7 and p equals 9. Now this is much, much harder, but once again, we're just going to do the same thing that we did last time. We're going to plug in -7 for y. We're going to plug in 9 for p. So when we do that, we get the following. We have -7 plus 2 squared plus 9. Next up, we need to evaluate the stuff in parentheses. So we're going to do our -7 plus 2 first, which is going to give us -5 squared plus 9. And then -5 squared is 25, so we should get 25 plus 9, and 25 plus 9 is 34. We're going to look at this kind of thing in more detail later in the week, like I said, but are there any questions about how to do this right now? Hopefully everybody, once you get to this part, can solve this. We did do order of operations earlier in the year, but just in case. Okay. Does anybody need more time? This one's a little more complicated, so. Okay. And I appreciate you guys going fast today. All right. Write an algebraic expression for each phrase. So this is that little 4-panel thing that you've got on your interactive notebook. Oh, thought the -7 was a -5. So this one asks us to write an equation for the product of 7 and m. Is it 3 panels? Okay, might be 3 panels. My bad. The product of 7 and m. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to write this. Originally, we can write it as 7 times m. But again, when we have a number times a variable, we want to combine those together. So in this case, it's just 7m. We don't need to write the times in. Next up, we have 2 more than 6 times x. So if we're adding, or if we have 2 more than something, that means we're going to add. So this means add 2, and then we have 6 times x, which should just be 6x. So what we get here is 6x plus 2 or 2 plus 6x, whichever way you want to write it. For this one, just as a quick note, you can write it either way. It ends up being the same thing, but usually we like to write the x's first, or whatever our variable is first, and our coefficients or constants at the end. So numbers that are by themselves. Usually. It doesn't actually matter. You can write it either way. You won't lose points or anything like that if you do that on a test. But just so you know, the math standard is kind of to write the x's first. And then the last one, f divided by 3, then decreased by 4. Usually we end up writing this as a fraction. And the reason for that is just because, first of all, it looks simpler. And also it's a little bit less cluttered. So if we write it out as like f divided by 3 minus 4, that's a little bit more annoying to write it and look out. Don't hit F3 on your computer. That would be different. This is what we're going to be looking at tomorrow for the most part, but we'll get to that in a little bit. Okay, and then we've got 2 more left. We're almost done, guys. Does anybody need time for this one? Okay. So this one says, determine if the number given is the solution of the equation. So we have negative 2y plus 6 equals negative 16. And the question is 5 the solution? So the way we do this is, what we're basically asking is the solution y equals 5? So what we're going to do is the same thing as we would if we were solving this for y equals 5. We're going to plug 5 in for y. So we substitute 5 in for y, and that gives us negative 2 times 5 plus 6 equals, this equals with a question mark over the top is basically just a way of writing. We're not sure if this is actually true yet. So we have this question mark up here, equals negative 16. Right? And then we need to multiply. So we have negative 2 times 5. That's going to give us negative 10 plus 6 equals, with a question mark, negative 16. And of course, hopefully you guys can fill this in. Negative 10 plus 6 is negative 4, not negative 16. This sign right here, equals with a slash through it, that just means does not equal. So 5 is not the solution in this case. As a bonus, can anybody tell me what the solution actually is? It'd be very impressive if you could. It's like something I'd ask my 8th graders to do. Ooh, good job, Enrique. Dylan, can you hear me this time? Now that you're back. By the way, for those of you who are wondering, the actual answer is 11. Because 11 times negative 2 would give you negative 22. Negative 22 plus 6 is negative 16. Okay. Anybody need more time? Somebody said go faster. Goodness. Okay. So this one, determine if the number given is the solution of the equation. We have x over 5 minus 4 equals 4. The question is 40 the solution? So again, we're going to substitute 40 in for x. That's going to give us 40 over 5 minus 4. Now, be careful with order of operations here. In this case, we can just divide out, but you want to watch out for that in some of the problems. So 40 divided by 5, that's going to give us 8 minus 4. And 8 minus 4 does in fact equal 4. So this one, the solution is true. And I do believe that is the end of our notes. Spring break starts after the 19th, I believe. I want to say. Yeah. So it's after the 19th. The 19th is the last day. The 12th is the last day to turn in old assignments. So an important thing for everybody to know is that if you have missing assignments, I would love for you to stay and talk to me about getting them caught up. But also, you'll have, I think, 2 weeks left until they're due. Yeah, because they're going to be due on the 12th at the latest. All right. So you guys are free to go. Have a good rest of your day. If you have questions,